All right, let's get down to the final five. So at number five, I have Kendrick Lamar. Now, Kendrick Lamar definitely, definitely had a very highly talked about and, in some people's eyes, controversial halftime performance at last year's Super Bowl. Excuse me. He was fresh off of his 5 Grammy wins. Plus, he also was about to have his album GTX come out. So he was definitely riding some serious momentum. Well, now this Super Bowl halftime show had some real subliminal messages, starting with superstar Academy Award nominated actor Samuel L. Jackson dressed as Uncle Sam, who was pretending to tell Kendrick Lamar that he has to tone it down. He doesn't want to offend the mainstream. But I definitely like when Kendrick says, wrong time, wrong guy, as his intro. That's the boldest statement anyone has said at a Super Bowl halftime show. Plus, he started performing some of his hit songs such as Humble, DNA, excuse me, Squabble Up. And plus, one of my favorite performances of that halftime show is when he performed with SZA, All the Stars from the Black Panther soundtrack. That's one of my favorite Kendrick Lamar songs. He also performed his hit, he premiered his new single, Luther, which is a dedication to Luther Vandross. Also, he performed TV Off from the GTX album. And also, another thing that stole the show was tennis superstar Serena Williams when she did the Crip Walk to Not Like Us. Now, a lot of people thought she was doing that as a shot at her ex Drake, who is Kendrick Lamar's rival, but it wasn't. This was a response to when she did the Crip Walk at the London Olympics and Wimbledon back in 2012, and a lot of people gave her a lot of heat for it. It caused a lot of controversy. So that's what the whole Crip walking thing was about. That's why she's in the tennis. That's why she was in the tennis outfit. That was the response to that, not to Drake. Now, a lot of people loved Kendrick Lamar's halftime performance. I was one of them. A lot of people understood the subliminal messages that he put in that halftime show, and he did it deliberately to send a message to the world. And what better way to do it than on the biggest stage at the Super Bowl halftime show where you got millions of people watching? But then there were some people who felt that, oh, they couldn't understand his lyrics or what he was saying. Also, you had some folks from New Orleans who definitely were upset over the fact that Kendrick Lamar was selected to be the halftime performer over New Orleans' own Lil Wayne. But, and I understand New Orleans, y'all ride for your city, you ride for your own. I get that. I admire that, and I respect that. But very rare, the artist that's from the whole city performs at the Super Bowl. Of course, yeah, we had Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and all of them perform at the halftime show that was in LA. But that's the exception, not the rule. Look at Beyonce. Beyonce's from Houston, and she's never performed at none of the halftime shows hosted in Houston. All the shows she performed in were outside of Houston. And plus, the NFL, as well as Jay-Z and Roc Nation, They have control over who performs there. No one else. But in spite of all that, that Super Bowl halftime performance pulled in a lot of ratings. In fact, it pulled in 133 million viewers. That was the biggest viewership for a Super Bowl halftime show since Michael Jackson did it in Super Bowl 27. In fact, Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show eclipsed Michael Jackson's. Now, that's a hell of a feat that your halftime show can outdo the king of pop, or as we say, the king of music. You're definitely doing something right. But also, I get that some people may say, well, you know, when Michael Jackson did it, streaming wasn't around. And yes, that's a fair point. Imagine if streaming was around at that time. Oh, Michael would have did gigantic numbers with streaming with that Super Bowl halftime show. But that's another conversation for another day. Now, this Super Bowl halftime show really stands out, like I said about the Weeknd Super Bowl halftime show earlier, that it was original. It brought something different compared to previous Super Bowl halftime shows. You know, me, I don't like cliche. I don't like rinky dink. I want something different. I don't want more of the same all the time because it gets redundant, it gets boring, it gets stale. And Kendrick really, brought that, that different energy to the Super Bowl, to his Super Bowl halftime performance. Also, I like the whole game controller setup to, subliminally say that, hey, America's playing a game with the people. And plus, this is the first time you've seen subliminal messages on a Super Bowl halftime show on purpose. That was not just anything coincidental or accidental. That was by design. Kendrick Lamar not only wanted to entertain, but he also wanted to convey a message, and he did a hell of a job in accomplishing that. Whether people loved it, whether people hated it, it definitely did one thing. It had a lot of people talking. Whether you were talking with this among your family, friends, on social media. Matter of fact, at a family get-together, not too long after that Super Bowl halftime show aired, I had, some of my family members got into debates about that Super Bowl halftime show and what he really meant during his performance, especially when he did Not Like Us, which we all know that was a diss song towards Drake. They went to heavy debates on that performance. But Kendrick Lamar definitely knows how to give a show, and not only he knows how to give a show, he also knows how to convey a message into his shows without being preachy or trying to hit you over the head. He makes it. He conveys his messages in his music and in his shows to make sure you either understand it or you learn it. And that's what stood out to me with this halftime show. That he definitely wanted to get his message across because, of course, Donald Trump, y'all president, just got sworn in a few weeks before. So Kendrick Lamar did an amazing job with his performance. He also got his message across, and plus, it had a lot of people talking, for better or worse.